Hey, welcome to Space Couch. I didn't mean to run the applause effect there, but that's okay because it's a celebration of you. Especially because due to some unforeseen medical issues, everything's fine, but the ditch will be rescheduling. So we'll be doing not a repeat, but a revisiting of a Thundercats read today, which I had a lot of fun with. I hope you do too. So we'll be doing that right after we talk about our wonderful advertisers this week, brand new to the show, but I do enjoy their products. It's Tiger Squawk Records. You want to check out Navigator from Duckbag TM. You also want to look. Melting Rust Opera has got a new one out. Oh, Deanna's here. Brain Games, me and my buddy Adam. You want to check out the Nightsicles, me and my buddy Anna. But it's not all about me. You want to check out Club Ovator, although I am on that remix. EP. Amalgamated Cadaver, that's me and Deathly. Oh boy, this is getting bad. Emerging Eldritch Science Fiction, there you go. You want to check out Landscape Body Machines, No Cable, and Gasoline and Verb, it's Crack Wax. Battery, to say nothing of Haster Sex Club, Ethics of Technical Love. That's Dr. Lovecraft's Dating Sims. Great. Distortion versus Tiger Squawk, that's wonderful. The new Isserly is probably my favorite. You want to check out all of that at tigersquawkrecords.bandcamp.com. Tiger Squawk Records is a very nice label, says Deanna. Yes! Diana Dina, okay, I'm sorry. From MTV TV. Which is a quality thing, and you should check it out because there's some new videos from some of the acts we talked about today from Tiger Squawk Records. It's a very nice record label. Speaking of tigers, let's get into today's read. It is from 1985. We have problems already. Let's go here. And we have Attack of the Mutants. We'll get into that. Bring it up here. All right, you guys comfortable? Because you can't watch today unless you're comfortable. So I got my coffee. Let me just do a little bit of that. I can't drink my coffee when the guest is talking because there's no guest today, so we'll figure out how to navigate that. But this is Attack of the Mutants by Ann Hodgman, illustrated by Mones, I don't know, Mones, M-O-N-E-S, like no last name, like Madonna, but that's okay. Some great sort of preliminary art here. I'm sorry if you're listening to the podcast today. This one you may want to go check out the artwork for it. They're doing it all. You get this cool drawing of the evil mutants, a great mid-80s style drawing. Then we go to oopsie-daisy. We go to Shift C, the Thundercats for today. It looks wonderful. And then we go to the title page, Slide and the Thunder Tank, what's going to be happening today. And then we get this great drawing of Cat's Lair. That's one of the coolest in the whole book. It's really quite magnificent. Like I'm reminded of Dungeons and Dragons style art. That would take up a whole page. F. Oh no. Let's see. We want to then go to. Oh yeah. Okay. We'll go here. Cool. So begins. It was a clear sunny morning on Third Earth. Above the green meadows loomed the Cat's Lair, mighty castle of the Thundercats. Slowly its huge stone head turned from left to right, as if surveying for intruders, while dazzling electron beams shot from its eyes. A living fortress, it was alert to any sign of danger in that peaceful landscape. This was the home of the Thundercats. This was the home the Thundercats had built on Third Earth, when their own planet, Thundera, had been destroyed. Their band had 6 members: Lion-O, the Thundercats' youthful leader; Cheetara, who was swifter than any cheetah; Tigra, a master of camouflage who was able to blend into any background; Panthro, an acrobat and martial artist; and the prankish Wily Kit and Wily Cat, whose repertoire of practical jokes could disarm any enemy. And then there was Snarf, Lion-O's faithful guardian, a space sheepdog who would never believe that Lion-O could take care of himself. The Thundercats had to be on constant guard against their many enemies. Slythe, a mutant reptile, lived in Castle Plundar with his fellow mutants. Mumra, a loathsome mummy being who had lived for 7,000 years, ruled his evil domain from the fearsome Black Pyramid. Though they distrusted each other, Slythe and Mumra had a common bond, their deep hatred of the Thundercats. It was their goal to possess the Eye of Thundera, the source of the Thundercats' power, and they never ceased trying. Inside the cat's head, Tigra and Panthro were running a test of the lair's intricate defense system. Tigra studied the graph console. "Let's try the enlarger, Panthro," he said. Panthro punched a button. Instantly, the image of a volcano jumped onto the telescreen in front of him. A blur was racing around its base. It was Cheetara, out for her morning jog. "Incredible," said Tigra. "I clock her at a 30-second mile." He switched off the telescreen. "Let's go get some exercise ourselves." If they had stayed to watch the telescreen, they would have seen that Cheetara's astonishing pace was slowing, and finally stopping. She was in trouble. She looked around in bewilderment and took a few more steps, and fell to the ground. 2 of Slythe's mutant henchmen were watching. Chittering with excitement, a monkey scuttled over to Cheetara's unconscious form. A jackal-man loped along behind him, panting. Leering, they picked up the tiny blow dart they had felled her. They picked up the tiny blow dart that had felled her. That had felled her. Excuse me. They pulled Cheetara onto a stretcher and carried her away into the underbrush. Odd monkey and an odd jackal, man? It's an interesting take. A little later, at Castle Plundar, Slythe interrogated them. Did you get her? Yes? He asked eagerly, rubbing his scaly hands in anticipation. Of course we got her, squealed the monkey indignantly. She's there now. I hope this works, said Slythe. Those cats are very clever, and I don't trust Mumra, but it is a good plan, so we'll wait and see. Yes? Yes, said the monkey and jackal man in unison. Oh, we got a picture of that. So that's them having felled Cheetara with a blow dart, which they never use in the show, which is interesting. I should also point out that this book makes the distinct point to spell Slythe S-S-S-Lithe. Thunder crashed in the stormy sky above the Black Pyramid. Dong, dong. Mumra's stronghold. Around its polished onyx sides stretched miles of bleak and barren desert. Beyond the desert was the field of daggers. Only the most determined traveler could reach the Black Pyramid, and Cheetara was trapped inside. She lay unconscious on a stone slab in Mumra's tomb. Wrapped in decaying bandages, Mumra walked around her, gloating. Only his eyes could be seen, and they flashed triumphantly. So the cheetah has been trapped, he sneered. Cheetara, they call you, the quick. We were not quite so quick this time, were we? But fear not, fast one. You shall be among your friends this very night, and you will remember none of this. Sleep, and dream peaceful dreams, while Mumra calls upon all his strength to leave this pyramid in a new form he has never assumed before. Behold! He stretched his arms heavenward. Around him, the room took on a sinister glow. Mumra began to chant, "Ancient spirits of evil, transform this ancient body into Pumra, the Puma of Thundera." The statues in the room glimmered with an eerie light. Sheets of lightning crackled through the air. The transformation was beginning. A swirl of smoke filled the room. When it cleared, Mumra had taken on a new form. The decaying mummy was gone. Now he looked like a lithe, handsome puma, like a thundercat. He paused a moment to savor his new shape. Then, grinning, he lifted Chitara off the slab and carried her out of the room. Chitara blinked. Startled, she looked around. "Drink this," came a gentle voice. "It will make you feel better." Chitara saw a handsome cat-like man kneeling next to her. What happened? Who are you?" she asked. The man spoke soothingly. "You were captured by some strange creature. I heard the name. It was Smythe, I think." "Slithe," Chitara gasped. "Yes, that could be it. They drugged you. They were about to carry you away when I appeared. I fought them off. I am pleased to see that you seem well, and so I shall be on my way." He knew Chitara wouldn't let him leave. She didn't. "Wait!" she said urgently. "Who are you? You look strangely familiar, like someone I have known in the past. Are you from this third Earth?" "No," Mumra answered. "I am Pumra. I come from a distant planet called Thundera," Chitara cried. Pumra seemed surprised. "You know Thundera? Oh man, check out this image. Clear that one and getting scandalous. Ooh. Let me just take a little break here. Get a little coffee from a Prince coffee mug today. All right. It was. Oh, excuse me. This is a pretty intense line. It was my home. You must come with me to Cat's Lair and meet my friends, the Thundercats. "I would like that," Pumra said. He smiled. "Yes, I would like that very much." An hour later, the Thundercats were talking with their new friend. All were grateful to Pumra for rescuing Chitara. As the leader of the Thundercats, it was up to Lion-O to thank him. "Pumra," he said, "we owe you so much for saving Chitara's life. Our home is open to you for as long as you'd like to stay." "You have my deep gratitude for this kindness," said Pumra, bowing slightly. "I look forward to many happy days amongst you. And now, if you will excuse me, I will retire." He smiled at the group. "Until morning," he said, and left the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Snarf broke the silence. "I don't trust him!" Snarf, why do you say that? You don't even know him," answered Lion-O indulgently. He was used to Snarf's fussing. Snarf looked sheepish, but he was determined. "Just a Snarf's intuition, that's all." Chitara gave Snarf an affectionate smile. "Still the same old warrior," she said. "But you'd look a lot more worried if you hadn't rescued me. If he hadn't rescued me, you know. I'm certainly glad he came along." "So am I," said Panthro. "Perhaps we should ask him to join us." "Good idea," said Tigra. "What do the rest of you think?" And there's a great one. Look at that phone! Pumra wasn't wasting any time as the Thundercats talked. In his guest room, he was improvising a headset. He put on the earpiece, stuck the aerial out his window, and whispered cautiously into the microphone. "Do you hear me? Slithe, are you there? Are you there, reptilian?" he said. He murmured. The radio crackled for a second, then came Slide's answering hiss. "Yes, we are, and we are prepared. Where are you?" "Where I'm supposed to be," said Pumra smugly. "In the Cat's Lair, of course." Slithe hissed approvingly. "We must know what their plans are," he said. "If you can find their war room..." Pumra cut him off. Pumra! does not need any instructions, he said curtly. Just be sure you are where you are supposed to be at high noon tomorrow. Yes, we will certainly be there, answered Slythe. Back in the council chamber room, there we go. Oh, that tiger looks like he's advertising Lucky Strike cigarettes or something. Back in the council chamber room, the Thundercats were still discussing their new companion. This puma apparently has saved Chitara's life, said Tigra, and he appears to be one of us. Have you anything more to say about him, Chitara? He asked. You didn't actually see him before you fainted, did you? No, that's true, said Chitara, but when I awoke, I vote we take him in, Lion-O said eagerly. But as he spoke, the misty image of Jaga the Wise, the Thundercats' legendary commander, materialized in front of him, and Jaga's voice echoed in the air. Be not hasty, Lion-O, Jaga cautioned. One does not make decisions by instinct alone. Let the facts weigh heavily on your mind, and listen to your peers. Lion-O looked abashed. You are right, Jaga, he said. I should take more time in making important decisions. Tigra, how will you vote? And we have a new image. Lion's standing up, looking very officious. Lion-O, you are right, Jaga. How are you? Here, so Tiger says, I vote to give the Pumas a week probation. I vote to give the Puma a week's probation, said Tigra. I agree, said Panthro. If he is who he seems to be, he should have no objections. Chitara thought for a minute. I suppose we cannot ask him to join us until we know we can trust him, she said at last. So say you all, said Tigra. Then they spoke in unison. By the code of Thundera. Alone in his room that night, Pomra stole to the door and listened. They must all be asleep by now, he decided, and while the Thundercat sleeps, Pomra works. Thundercats sleep, Pomra works. And he went to work, his own special kind of work. First, he unplugged all the telescreens and jammed the Laird's communication systems. He readjusted the cat's head motor and drawbridge controls to suit his own purposes. He rewired the Thunder Tank so that none but he and his allies could drive it. Damn. Then he stole into the weapons room where all the Thundercats' weapons were stored. But where was Lion-O's sword? The sword containing the Eye of Thundera. It was nowhere to be seen. Drat! Pomra muttered. It must be in Lion-O's room. He tiptoed down the hall to check, but the sword was not there. Pomra strode angrily away. Then he stopped and turned around. He had noticed a door in the wall. It had no handle. Pomra laughed a quiet, sinister laugh. Yes, he sneered. This door would be safely locked to anyone but Mumra. They have used an old Egyptian tomb device, unknown for 1,000 years. Unknown, that is, except to the one who has lived for 1,000 years. He gave this one stone a gentle turn, and the door slid open. In the middle of the sword chamber, under a soft light, was the mystic sword of omens. Dun-dun! Pomra reached toward it. From the sword's hilt, the Eye of Thundera gave a low growl. He stretched toward it again, and the eye growled. Pomra stretched his hand out again. This time, though, he reached for the eye instead of the sword's handle. And here we have Pomra reaching for the sword. That's a beautiful image. Swiftly, he clapped his hand over the eye. It gave a muffled roar, but Pomra was ready now. He wrapped the eye tightly in a cloth. That will keep it quiet, he said with satisfaction. Then he examined it. Strange, he said. The sword is much smaller than when I last saw it. Pomra did not know the sword couldn't reach its full length and its full power, only in the hand of its proper owner, Lion-O. He tapped the sword lightly, almost affectionately. Well, no matter, he said. It is mine. Details can come later. Of course, Pomra mentioned nothing about this next morning in the Thundercats council chamber. I understand your decision and I agree with it, he said. I hope I will prove worthy of your trust. Snarf muttered suspiciously to himself. Everyone ignored him. "We hope so too," said Tigra. Panthro stood up. "Come on, Tigra, Chitara. We have work to do in the Thundrillium fields." "Are you going to take the Thunder Tank?" Lino asked. Pumra froze. If they took the tank, they'd find out he'd sabotaged it. "No, not today," said Panthro. "We'll walk." Pumra relaxed again. Everything was going according to plan. "Lionel, we'll be back at noon," Panthro said, and they set out for the fields. A few minutes before noon, Lionel and Snarf were playing a game of ring toss, Snarf style. Snarf pointed his furry tail straight into the air, and Lionel tossed rings onto it. Lionel had won so many games that Snarf was getting restless. "This game is beginning to bore me," he complained. "I mean, my part in it is." Well, guarding this place is just as boring," Lionel answered. "Who'd be fool enough to attack this fortress? It's invulnerable. Let's go and have a look through the cat's eye and see how Panthro and the group are making out. They should be back any minute." They walked into the cat's head control room. Lionel sat at the control console. And here we have... Yeah, okay. Lionel is, in this image, is seeing the missing pedestal where the Sword of Omens erstwhile lay. He pushed the on button for the left eye. Nothing happened. He pushed the on button for the right eye. Nothing happened. He pushed the on switch for the telescreen. Nothing. Strange! Maybe the master power supply is malfunctioning, said Lionel. But the power supply was working! Something's really wrong here, said Snarf. For once, Lionel didn't laugh at him. Yes, this is serious, he agreed. I'd better use the sword to see where Panthro is. Why didn't you just... He sprang to his feet and went to the sword chamber, with Snarf at his heels. The sword was gone! Now Lionel and Snarf were really worried. You'd better call them on the correspondent of the Thunder Tank, said Snarf. That is, if it's working. But it wasn't, and the Thunder Tank only coughed and went dead when Lionel tried to start it. This is trouble, Snarf, said Lionel grimly. Big trouble. The mutants were watching the cat's lair from a spot nearby. As they watched, the cat's eyes began to blink in code. It was Pumra's signal to them. Good, said Sly. Somehow he has done it. The cat's lair is as good as ours. They chortled with mutant glee. Ha ha! Mutant glee. Lionel and Snarf were heading back to the lair. They didn't notice Pumra until they were almost at the door. He was standing in the doorway. In his hand was the sword. He lifted it high in the air and waved it tauntingly at them. His laugh was cruel and full of menace. I knew it! I just knew it! moaned Snarf. Pumra drew himself to his full height. Stand back and do as I say, boy! He jeered at Lionel. Who are you? asked Lionel fiercely. You're not from Thundera. What do you want of us? Pumra smiled. Everything, he said. All I want, and before this day is done, I shall have it. I want it all, and before this done is I should speed up his line. I want it all, and before this day is done, I shall have it. The sword won't obey you, shouted Lionel, and without it, you are no match for me. He made a rush with the sword. Pumra stepped out of the way nimbly. Hold, he cried. Cool. Your brain speaks faster than your tongue can think. Hold and behold! He unwrapped the cloth from the sword and screamed out the Thundercats' magic incantation. Thunder! Thunder! Thundercats! Ho! Somebody else did it. What? The sky turned black. Lightning ripped the air. Deafening thunder roared and the wind shrieked. Pumra's evil was tearing the heavens apart. As the storm began, the other Thundercats were struggling to reach the lair. I have never seen the likes of such a storm, shouted Tigra. His words were almost lost in the howling wind. Nature alone could not create such a storm, said Chitara. I sense some other force at work. An evil force. We must hurry, Panthro shouted through the thunder. The others may need us. His eyes were glowing fire. So were the eyes of the other Thundercats. Their special powers were taking hold. The Thundercats raced towards their lair. They reached it just in time to see a bolt of lightning streak across. They reached it just in time to see a bolt of jagged lightning striking the sword in Pumra's hand. Like a living thing, the sword sprang from his grip and landed between him and Lion-O. It pulsed with a fiery light. Yeah, Bad Seed 666 in here. Like a living thing, the sword sprang from his grip and landed between him and Lion-O. It pulsed with the fiery light. Jaga's image appeared in the dark sky. His words floated over the sounds of the storm. "The mystic sword of omens cannot be used for evil deeds," he said. "Attempt it and know the wrath of Jaga." Pumra ignored him. Oh, Jaga's directly getting involved. Very rare. Lion-O hurled himself with the sword. Just as quickly, Pumra reached for it himself, but Snarf was even quicker. He coiled his long tail around Pumra's legs and sent him sprawling. Now Lion-O grabbed the sword, but Pumra only laughed disdainfully. "Look behind you," he sneered. "It's too late, boy." And this image is the Thundercats springing into action. It's a really good one. The mutants were advancing in the Thunder Tank, and its laser guns were firing. The mutants are driving the Thunder Tank. At the same time, Panther, Tiger, and Chitara came into view, racing for the cat's lair. The mutants were ready for them, or so they thought. Sly turned the laser on his opponents. He shouldn't have bothered. Chitara merely stepped out of the beam's way in a half a millisecond. Tiger dematerialized, and the beam passed harmlessly through the spot where he'd been, and Panther leaped into a tree in an effortless panther bound. As his friends dodged the beam, Lion-O stepped forward to the Thunder Tank. Sword in hand, he lopped off the laser beam. Tiger grabbed the wheel of the Thunder Tank and spun it wildly, hurtling the mutants into the air. "Sorry about that," said Panther, dusting off his hands. "Into the cat's lair," screamed Pumra. He and the mutants bolted into the lair and locked the door behind them. And then we go to the next image. It's Sly firing out of the Thunder Tank. It's probably my favorite. The Thundercats had won round one, but they had lost control of their fortress. Lion-O sighed. So did they win? Huh? Lion-O sighed. "Well, that takes care of the mutants, for a while anyway. But Pumra's locked up our lair." "Not necessarily," said Tiger. Panther looked at him warily. "There's another way in you haven't told us about." "Yes," said Tiger, "through a power exhaust." "But suppose he turns the power on?" asked Chitara. "It's a chance we'll have to take," Lion-O said impetuously. "I'll go." Tiger shook his head. "Lion-O, I'm the architect of Cat's Lair. I know every nook, turn, and cranny of the system. But I have the sword," argued Lion-O. As always, when Lion-O needed a lesson, Jaga's image appeared. "Ingenuity is called for here, not bravery and strength," he said. "It is Tiger who should go." Lion-O swallowed his disappointment and stepped forward to shake his friend's hand. "Good luck, Tigra," he said. A few seconds later, Tiger was deep in the lower reaches of the lair, in the pipeline that led to the fuel room. Once the pipe creaked ominously, but no one seemed to hear it. Phew. He crept forward with agonizing slowness, hoping beyond hope that he'd make it out of the pipeline before the power was turned on. Outside, the other Thundercats waited. Suddenly there was a roar of flame, and then an ominous humming. Someone had turned on the power! Then came an even more frightening sound. The cat's eyes were focusing on them. Someone inside the cat's lair was watching the Thundercats. "Get out of sight of those eyes," commanded Panthro, "and pray that Tigra made it. I'm going to see if he needs a hand." And before the eyes could spot him, he began to scale the side of Cat's lair. "I'll distract the eyes while he's climbing," said Chitara, running in a dizzying circle in front of them. But Lion-O had an even more daring plan. He raised the sword again. "Thunder! Thunder! Thundercats! Ho!" he cried. The sword tripled in length. Its magical eyes shot into the sky. The eyes of the cat's head swiveled to focus on it, and he shattered into 1,000 pieces as the eye, sorry. Thundercats, oh! The sword tripled in length, its magical eyes shot into the sky. The eyes of the cat's head swiveled to focus on it, and shattered into 1,000 pieces as the eye of Thundera roared in fury. The lair door opened and Lion-O raced inside. So did they even need... Okay. "Wait for Snarf!" Snarf called plaintively. He made it inside just in time before the door crashed shut. The noise alerted Pumra. He rushed to a window and caught the sight of Panthro scaling the wall outside. Pumra cursed and raged. Then he leaned out the window and howled in evil char. Mothra, what? "Spirits of evil, send forth an evil force." There was an explosion in the sky, and a horrifying kite monster swooped down toward Panthro, breathing fire. With one cat-like movement, Panthro flung a chain around its neck, and the monster fell shrieking to the ground. As it fell, its own fiery breath set it ablaze. Damn! Panthro continued on his way. He does not care. And that's it! That's the whole story! Wait a minute, that can't be right. That's gotta be continued. That's all I got! Thanks to ThundercatsFans.org for providing the first 27 pages of Attack of the Mutants. That's at least part one. I don't know, I didn't read it beforehand. We'll find out. We'll find out what happens. If that's not part 2 of the book, which it looks like it is, or excuse me, part 1 of the book, that's certainly part 1 of Attack of the Mutants here on Space Couch. We'll find out what happens in the next book. But we'll reschedule with The Ditch. All the love to them. Excited to talk to them, and we'll see you next week for Space Couch. Up until then, this is Brian for Space Couch. Stay tuned for part 2 of Attack of the Mutants. And check out these wonderful sponsors. If you'd like to help out the show, please check out patreon.com/Gothsicles.